Hello again, everyone watching on Spotify or listening anywhere where you listen to your podcast of choice. My name is Jerry Strauss, and this is Celebrity Stage Stories. This is the place where your favorite stars of the stage and screen talk about their careers and their experiences performing in front of you and for you, the fans. We're going to get their stories, experiences, and we're just going to have a great time celebrating some of the reasons why we love everyone who pops up on our show. This week certainly is indicative of our theme. Certainly, no exception here, as we have someone we've come to know and love everything she's done in the past, present, and we know we will in the future as well. We're going to talk a little bit about all that this time out. Tina Majorino is here with us. Tina, hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, so glad to have you. So glad to talk to you. So glad for you to be here. Now, we talk about the past, present, future. We're here, and I know that you're here talking up a storm here, there, and everywhere about this new project that you have, I Challenger, this new movie that is available digitally now. So first of all, before we even really get into it, how are you feeling? This has to be an exciting time for you.
It is a really exciting time. It feels like a rejuvenation of life, obviously, because of the pandemic and everything. Any semblance of normalcy is just amazing for me. So I'm very excited. We shot this movie 2 years ago, so I'm thrilled that it's finally coming out. It's just really, a really happy time.
Is this really for you kind of the first step back into the some part of the normal process of a project coming out in that period of time?
Yes, and it's thrilling for me. I was very excited waking up this morning knowing that I got to do this, so I'm really happy.
It's so weird. I mean, even to me, like, it's cool to have a day where you're required to wear something other than like pajamas. Like, it still feels kind of new.
Yeah, I was just talking to Annie, the publicist, about this, is that it's really hard to get out of that habit now. And so it feels really good when you actually are required to put on people clothes. I love it.
Well, look, you've been putting on people clothes, and you've been in the limelight and putting out great things that, so many people have loved for a long, long time. I want to go back to the beginning a little bit, because in reviewing your career, there's a first chapter that, as a 90s pop culture geek as I am, even I had forgotten about. But I think this has to be pretty much at the beginning of your career. I want to talk a little bit about Camp Wilder. Um, so before we even do that, what led you to that point? Because you were 7 years old when you were on this sitcom called Camp Wilder.
Yes.
What was your runway into the world of acting in general?
I started out singing and dancing. I had watched Wizard of Oz obsessively as a baby, and I, at some point when I started to talk, told my mom that I want to do that. And I don't think that I knew what that was. I just wanted to perform. And so my mom put me into the singing and dancing group that at the end of X amount of time, you would perform in front of like 300 people. And she's like, this will scare her and she'll be over it. And it didn't. So then I kept doing that and doing little performances, and then I got into commercials, which then led into auditioning for Camp Wilder and getting Camp Wilder. And then it, everything just sort of grew from there.
Okay, cool. And you look back at you look at the lineup of this show, which I had kind of half forgotten about its existence, but I now, now I remember it. I remember the opening credits. Um kind of a who's who, such a weird mix of people. I love that about when you can go back and look at old like 80s and 90s projects and be like, what a interesting mix of people as we know them now. But you were there in the mix with Jerry O'Connell, with Jay Moore, Hilary Swank was on the show, Jared Leto was on the show.
Yeah.
Uh, was at this stage of the game, because the instinct is like, how did you feel, working amongst all these amazing, well-known stars, but everyone was kind of starting out at that point, right? This was sort of an up and coming group of stars, yourself included.
Yeah, and I think also even when I did go on to make films and I was working with humongous movie stars, I was still a child and I had no idea. I didn't look at actors that way, if that makes sense. I didn't have
Mhm.
enough life experience to even know really what a famous person was, or what a movie star was, or anything. It's just so I have to, obviously I can look back on those experiences as an adult and project what I feel now onto that. But as a child, I was just getting to do what I love to do. And I was around really, really talented people who took great care of me and taught me a lot. So it's interesting because, like, if I had those experiences as an adult, my recollection would be completely different. But yeah, everybody was up and coming, and we were all just excited to have work and excited to be together and making something fun. So, but now looking back, it's like Hilary Swank is an Oscar winner.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
Well, I don't know how many interviews she's doing where she's talking about Camp Wilder, so I appreciate you picking up the slack.
No worries.
Look, no, it was a live before a studio audience taped sitcom, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how I mean, we talk about, the idea of, everyone having their own stage stories beyond your initial foray into performing in front of 300 people,
Yeah.
and then going into this new, like, how did that strike you? Because that feels like a very intimidating thing, but as such a young kid, did it hit you that there was this pressure of having to be in front of a live audience?
It's funny because as a kid, I loved it. I really liked the immediate response that you could get from an audience. And now as an adult, I'm so much shyer about that. And I'm so much more um, self conscious about that.
Mhm.
So when I was that age, it was so fun. And I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Sitcoms are probably the sweetest gigs in the business, as far as like your schedule and like the energy of it and all of that, because you rehearse all week, and Friday night comes and you get to put on this show with your comrades. It's amazing. But when I was a kid, I loved the whole ritual of doing that show. It was amazing. But now as an adult, it's like I get very scared being in front of a lot of people. I get very nervous. So I don't know what that's about.
Well, I think that's all of us. We all get more timid as the years go on, I think, which is why it's good to at least have the experience of facing those fears before
Yeah.
they become fears. Before they're going to be fearful things.
Yeah, that's very true. And I feel like the older that I get as an artist, I'm always just trying to get back to how I was when I was a kid.
Yeah. Wow.
How to unlearn all of the stuff that you learned through being in the business and like having different experiences and whatever, is just really trying to remember how it was when I was a child, and that connection that I had, and the not necessarily like a complete fearlessness, but close to it.
Right.
Yeah. When you don't know better, like you said, you don't know any better.
Blissful ignorance.
Yeah.
Well, talking about the mindset of trying to get back into your mindset from when you were younger, It wasn't that much longer after this, and I know we're skipping around a little bit, but in 1999, you decided to leave acting and you were gone for like half a decade. Was that something that you had planned out, or were you just kind of tired of the whole gig and just wanted to leave? And did you know you were coming back?
So it wasn't planned. That wasn't like, uh, it wasn't a scheduled thing.
Okay.
I left because I was exhausted and I wanted to have a real life. You know, when you're growing up in the business, it's amazing and it's incredible, and you're constantly in places that you probably would never see if it weren't for, you know, being an actor. But you know, I became very aware that like I was on the precipice of a new chapter of my life, and I wanted to have real experiences. As amazing and magical as it is to constantly be on sets and be playing pretend, it's like I had to find a way to ground myself, and like I didn't want all of my experiences to be fake.
Right, being somebody else.
Yeah, I wanted to have a real first kiss. I didn't want to have my first kiss on a movie set when I wasn't, just little things like that. And I wanted to go back to school, and I didn't know if I was going to come back. I think I was very lucky in that I worked really hard, and I worked for many years consistently, and that's great. But I was so tired, and I also was aware that I was so young. Like I wanted to be sure that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I needed to take a break and be with my family and be with my friends and live in one place. And you know, it took me a while to find my way back to the passion that I have for it. So it was definitely unplanned. It was not a celebrated decision at all, but who I am now, I give credit to little me for knowing when I needed to take a time out, because I'm really happy with where I'm at in my personal life, and the fact that I've had life experiences that now that I'm back at it, it's like I have things to pull from. And I think that that's really, I think personally, that's really important to have as an actor, have life experience and real feelings to pull from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, personally, there's nobody better than you who's more qualified to say whether it was a good decision or not. Clearly, you're very happy with how things turned out. But professionally, this is what I think is really cool, because you come back in 2004, and I mean, it's not a long time after that that you are now a part of probably two of the biggest projects that people know you for to this very day. Um, Never could have seen something like Napoleon Dynamite coming, like, in life, like, in the whole, just in life in general. Nobody could have ever predicted that a movie like this would exist. And,
Yeah.
how did you come to be a part of that project, and what did you think about it? Like, what were your conceptions about it ahead of time? Because I can't imagine that it's possible to know exactly what that would turn out looking and sounding and feeling like until it was done.
This is true. To be honest, Napoleon was one of the first scripts that landed on my desk when I decided to come back. I had just signed with a new agent when I came back, and she sent it to me, and she said, "This is really silly, like whatever, just read it, see what you think." And when I was a child, I was never really able to cross the threshold into anything comedic because I was seen as a dramatic young actress, which is amazing. But at the same time, as an actor, you're like, well, I want to try everything. I want to challenge myself. And I'm not this like dark little child, like with acting. That's not who I am. I want to try something different. So because I had taken the break and people hadn't seen me for a while, I was like, well, maybe these people will give me a shot. Maybe they'll let me be funny. Maybe I could just go balls to the wall and like try something completely different. And I remember reading the script and falling in love with it. It's one of the most perfect scripts I've ever read in the bajillion years that I've been doing this. Seriously, like people think that a lot of that movie is improvised and it's not. It was all on the page. It was hilarious. And it was one of those things where like, I mean, I still experience this when people watch it, where it's very polarizing. People either love it or they don't get it. And ergo hate it sometimes, whatever. But everybody besides me on my team read it and was like, I don't get it. This is weird, whatever. And I was like, no, I'm telling you, this is so funny and I want to do it. And I had no expectation of it blowing up the way that it did. None of us did, like you said. None of us could have expected that. But the fantastic part of the whole process of making that movie is that we all genuinely believed in it and believed in how hilarious it was. And we were fully committed and just wanted to make an amazing movie, and we did. And so I think obviously it's always icing on the cake when you get commercial success, let alone when you have a lightning in a bottle experience like what happened with Napoleon. But I will say that we were all so happy with what we made before anything popped off with it. But it's also one of the best movie sets that I've ever been on in my life, and I've been on a ton. So it's like the camaraderie that we experienced, just people being so joyful to be at work. Nobody was jaded. It was like such a beautiful re-entrance into working. Like I could not have asked for a better welcome back party, if we're honest.
That's awesome. It feels like your career is it's defined a lot by gut and vibe and letting yourself be pulled into a project that you can feel is going to be quality from your perspective, and that's kind of all that matters to you, which is essentially all that really should matter to an artist. So that's really cool because obviously it's benefited you in a lot of ways. And yeah, I mean, Napoleon Dynamite, you say you love it or you hate it. I also think it's the kind of movie that a lot of people will watch and hate, and then they need to watch it again, and then flips the script for them.
This is true. I've talked to a lot of people that's happened.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
It's really but I mean, I know that it was, you're talking about what a great experience it was before it caught on, but months and years later and to this very day, I mean, we're still talking about this amazing thing that you were a part of. That has to be kind of validating on some level, right?
Yes, of course. I mean, I would be lying if I said that I act solely for my own enjoyment for myself. It's like, obviously I want to make things that people want to watch and people enjoy watching. Like, is that the sole driving force for anything that I do? No. I mean, I like you just said, I go off of gut, and I want to work with interesting people, and I want to work with, big filmmakers, small filmmakers. I just love what I do so much. So, I have no control over how anybody's going to respond to anything that I make, but I just feel constantly in gratitude that I get to make things and I get to do what I get to do every day for a living. So it's like, it's incredible when everything comes together.
Yeah.
It can't be your driving force. If it is your driving force to only be in hits and only make things that everybody loves, like, you're doomed. You're really doomed. But when it does come together like that, I can't describe the feeling. Like it's one of the great honors of my life. I still love it when people come up to me and reference it. I love it. And it's just what a special experience to get to be a part of something like that. Like
And it feels in a very broad way, you had a similar experience with Veronica Mars, because here's a show that had a fan base and existed, and it was just one of those things where the fan base got bigger and bigger after the show was gone, to the
yeah,
point that it had to come back, and it's just another thing that I guess we might say that it's more popular now than ever, just like Napoleon Dynamite, you could say the same thing.
yeah, that's very true. Very true. And it's so funny how that works. I mean, I'm not even going to pretend to say that like I understand how any of that works, but like being a part of projects like that is amazing, and it's so funny to watch each project's trajectory and the project's life. Like those projects have lives of their own. It's so interesting. It's like, obviously when you're making something, you want it to pop right when you do it, but
Right.
it doesn't always work that way. And it doesn't, especially at this point, it doesn't really matter because of streaming and all of that kind of stuff is just, I think it's pretty cool how projects can get that second wind when the right eyeballs get on it,
Yeah. And that's something that you live in and experience over like such a long period of time. This thing now becomes such a big part of you, and you become a big part of it. And you can kind of enjoy that experience, not just 6 months after it's out, but 10, 20 years after it's out. You're still able to ride that wave. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you're lucky, that's the case for sure. Like I'm very grateful to have been a part of several projects that have an amazing lifespan, and like that's one of the reasons that I'm really grateful for the streaming services too, is like even things that I didn't get to watch years, like I'm having the same experience as a consumer too. So
Right.
it really creates space for so many different artists and so many different projects to just exist and find their audience. And I don't know, it's very cool.
It's very cool. Something else that's cool, and I want to get your take on where you are at this. This is almost a full circle sort of thing, because we talked about you being young, being nearly fearless, enjoying being in front of crowds. Now you're at a different stage of life where maybe it's not as comfortable, but now you're in this position, and especially coming off of the pandemic, I guess you might have a unique perspective on this, where you are able to go to places like Comic Cons and different types of conventions that are still celebrating in mass, like they're like hundreds, thousands of people celebrating and coming to you and wanting your attention and giving you attention and loving you. It in its own way, I feel like a Comic-Con type of event is like a stage show. Like you have to be out there and you have to be in a way the person that these people want to connect with. How do you feel about that experience? Because I know that's something that has to just have a unique type of energy around it, good or bad.
It is unique. That's a perfect way of putting it. It has a very unique energy around it. I've been to Comic Con 3 times, I think. Each time has been a little bit different of an experience, but I loved it. I mean, is it something that like my disposition could stomach every weekend? Absolutely not. Because it's exhausting, because there's like you said, that energy. It is a really intense atmosphere driven by so much positivity though.
Mhm.
Like going to Comic Cons actually really taught me a lot about fandom and about accepting my own fandom of things, and not having like guilty pleasures or whatever, just having pleasures, just having things that I enjoy and movies that I love and comics that I love, and just really leaning into that. Like when you're at a Comic-Con, there's no way that you you don't like that's not contagious.
Right.
And it has gotten scary at a couple of moments because, when you bring that many people together, of course, there are going to be some individuals there that take things a little far. That's sort of,
Jarring.
It's jarring. Yeah. But all in all, I've really enjoyed my experiences there. I really have. And because you're kind of meeting the best of the best. Like, people have traveled there to see you, which is like the craziest thing to think about, where, like, you're in your own little world on a set, making a project, doing this thing, and it's very insulated, and, it's not the stage show. And then when you realize, like, holy, people are watching this, like, oh my gosh, and the connection and all of that kind of stuff, it is really amazing. But again, not doing that every weekend.
Okay.
It's tough.
Fine, fair enough. I was about to give you a major pitch, but no. This show, by the way, folks, this show not officially affiliated with any convention, event / anything else. Just kidding. Now we're really full circle here now, because we're coming to the present, and as we said at the top, we're talking about iChallenger, and you talked about using your gut and feeling the vibe of a project, and that being the motivating force for you getting involved. Was that the case here? Is that what drew you to this movie?
Yeah, I was very intrigued by Paul, the director, and he's worked with so many iconic musicians, and I'm very into music, and I come from the era of the music video, and I loved his work. And also James, I'd never met James before, and he seemed like a lovely guy, and he is so lovely, did not disappoint. But when I read the script, it was really about wanting to step into maybe more of the romantic world. Like, on Veronica Mars, I had some romance, and I've dabbled in it, but it was never sort of the driving force of any role that I have played. So I wanted to experiment and dive into that. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it's something as small as that too, that can just make me want to go do it. I just want to experiment and try something new and go play with new people. And I had a blast.
And you're playing a cannabis dispensary clerk in this movie, which is a departure, I think, from the roles that we know you best for, to say the least. And let's just mention it here. Now, in the movie, joining you, of course, this is a cast. You got Coy Stewart, who fans may know best from Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You got James Duvall. You've got MC Light. This is a cast, man.
Majorino.
Were you an MC Light fan back in the day? Like, was that?
Hell yeah. You know what's a bummer is that I didn't get to meet MC Light, and I didn't get to meet Margaret Cho, and I love both of them so much. I know, but yeah, big fans of them.
Well, if you guys are listening, check out all the press for the movie. We gotta make a connection here. Maybe at a Comic-Con. That'll get you out.
Okay.
So, iChallenger's out. It's on demand on digital platforms. By the time this is out, it should be out and available for everybody. And it's been so awesome to talk to you, Tina. First of all, is there anything else you want to say about the movie? Anything? Because, for those who may not be familiar with it at all until watching this interview, why should people check it out?
Because it's a really sweet story. It's a buddy comedy, but it is a very heartwarming story. And I know that it's sort of framed as like the stoner comedy, but I think it has good heart. And if that doesn't do it for you, I have blue hair. in it, and I was obsessed with it. So you could go check out my blue hair.
And it's Tina's biggest romance on film since playing tetherball back in 2004 with Napoleon Dynamite. So
you did for me.
now listen, we don't want to encourage anyone to go over any lines or stalk or creep you out in any way, shape, or form. But is there any social media in this world that belongs to you that you'd like people to check out to follow you on?
Yes, I'm on Instagram at Tina Majorino. It's just my name. Come say hi to me.
Okay.
Instagram is really, I mean, I have other ones, but Instagram's the only one that I'm on.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Tina, thank you so much. Good luck with this project. Good luck for everything that you're going to do from now on. And, I'm sure we'll be seeing you continue to be celebrated over the years for everything you've done and everything that is yet to come. So enjoy it.
Thank you so much. What a lovely conversation. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you guys for checking us out once again here on Spotify or anywhere where you caught us. Please subscribe. Please share. Please follow. Please do it again next time here on Celebrity Stage Stories. Thanks, guys.